We've never done a live podcast. Should yeah, we have. Oh, I was thinking, and I mean, like, here we are. Glad we can be here.
Was like to not say anything until
We don't have to say anything.
well,
You're the editor, man. Oh, now
we're
I forgot we're. I get it now. Now we're live.
yeah. No, it doesn't matter. All right, you ready, man?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Because here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be putting this. Golly, this podium.
Squeaky.
Yeah, I need Anthony Powers to come and get it
Maybe he'll watch
dialed
this
back in.
and he'll hear that.
Ooh, the Braves. Braves are they're now going. Maybe they're winning
Up
by
by
a lot.
3. I'm
Shut
just
up.
kidding. Gotcha.
All right. Well, hey, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we decided to do something different today. We are going to be. We can't see if you comment, so I mean, like no comments, no nothing. Or are you going to look on there?
I can.
No, you don't have to.
Nah, let's not. And then if there's comments, we'll check them out afterwards.
And then we can maybe respond live to
Totally.
the comments or something. So yeah, go ahead and pull it up.
Okay.
Just don't turn the volume up, and that way you can just see comments. So I'll just give you a little kind of what's up. Why are you guys live right now? We're live just to try something different. We're about to record our podcast that we will put up later today on the website. Well, actually, it's just through a service, and then it's called the Rockcast, not the service, but the podcast, and then it distributes our podcast to many different places. So usually we just get in here and we just talk, and sometimes we have a special guest, and this is the second episode where we haven't had a special guest.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to do our podcast and record it. So we'll officially start here in just a minute. But we just thought, hey, it'd be kind of cool just to video it and see if anybody catches the podcast that way. And maybe you prefer video over anything else. And so if this is a really bad idea, you won't see the video on YouTube or Facebook because we'll just delete it. So with all that said, I guess we'll officially start the podcast.
Boom.
And then you've got the Facebook pulled up, so we're
Mm-hmm.
live. That'll be a good indicator, too, if we're actually still recording.
Yeah,
Because you wouldn't want to get through the whole podcast and be like, oh, you know what? You forgot to hit record. So maybe audio and all is good.
Yeah, so there we go.
All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Well, welcome to episode 5 of the Rockcast, which you just heard is a podcast of the Rock SM, where we simply have conversations on life, culture, and scripture. I am Chris.
And I'm Andrew.
And today, Andrew, is all about old people. Not like naming old people, right? Or like older people in our lives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like the benefit of having old people in our lives. And sometimes it is difficult to deal with people who are older with us. You made a reference last night, I think, to the relationship between you and your dad. Yeah, because I think you were talking about the podcast,
that's right,
and
that's
I was listening in on Facebook as I was making my way to church last night, and you just were telling them a little bit about the podcast, and like you and your dad. And,
We would butt heads sometimes, but it
you
was
were butt heads.
Butt heads. I was a butt head.
You would butt
mode.
heads.
We would butt heads, but I was a butt
Put
head.
that space in little Paul's butt head sometimes, but now it's like, I mean, it's a totally different relationship, which is
No doubt.
totally cool. So that's the direction of the podcast. That's where we're going to land. And so if you've listened to many of our podcasts, you know that have a little fun, talk about some cultural things, and at the beginning, maybe fun, maybe funny, maybe lame, but to us, we enjoy talking about them.
Absolutely.
And that's the purpose of the podcast, is just to really model conversations between two people who would identify themselves as believers, and we're just going to talk about life, talk about culture, and talk about scripture, and try to bridge the gap between all of those three. So you really have to be careful not to really, like dive deep into Facebook too much, because really this is your show today. I mean,
We're here today.
you wrote everything out that we're talking about, and you kind of guided the conversation. And I really didn't want to see the script,
It's a
kind of like
surprise.
the thought. I wanted it to be a surprise today and just kind of pipe
I like
in.
it.
Not because I'm lazy, but just
no
because I
way.
feel like that's how you get some
Yeah.
healthy
Natural answers.
conversations. Yeah. So, but here's the deal. Next month we really need to have. I mean, not next month, but hey, welcome to October. By the way,
Fall is here. Praise the Lord.
it's here. We really need to have a special guest next time.
Okay. Well, how about this? If anybody is listening to this and you really want to be a special guest on the Rock Podcast, we'll make a time to have you on.
You can be a Rooteville Roadian, you
Yeah.
can be a rock star, or you can be a either one of those things. If you want to be
That's right.
a guest,
Email one of us.
email one of us. That'd be good because I know but it's hard because we like to have some students in here, but they're in school right now, and that's typically when we record the podcast is when they're in school. But we got some people here on staff we could get, but we want some cool people. Just joking, totally joking on that. So why don't you get us going with some world stuff? Right?
Yeah. So segment 1, we always like to just talk about some random things that we've kind of seen out there and see what's going on. Hey, look, one thing that was really helpful when we had Miss Rachel Wakefield on the podcast, she brought up this app called the Unreached of the Day. And so it's an app that talks about these unreached people groups. I'm in seminary, and every once in a while I get an email about a certain people that are unreached to be praying for that week, and that got me thinking, oh, wait, we haven't said anything else about that app, and so it's just a reminder of, hey, look, this app is still a thing. So I think it's called the Unreached of the Day. But look, maybe we'll even say, look, what is the Unreached
go
people
to
group for the day?
This is a live test of the app.
Boom, it's
You got
coming
it?
up. It's by the Joshua Project, who
Okay.
is an evangelistic missional organization. They keep the highlights of the 1040 window, isn't that what it's called? And it's this window that shows unreached people groups or some of the most hostile places on earth where the gospel is not gone. So the unreached people group for the day is in Tanzania. Tanzania, yeah, wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
so pray about pronunciation before
Yes,
you
pray
pray
for
for
it.
the
Yeah,
group.
that's why
But
you
hey,
don't do stuff
the Lord
live.
knows what you're going to say before you speak,
right.
so
he knew I was going to mess up.
he knows you're going to mess up.
Shari Ozzy is who we're praying for today in Tanzania. There's 0% Christian, 0% evangelical. The main religion is Islam, and they speak Swahili. There's 643,000 people, and there's 0 of those people that are Christian or evangelized. That's unreal.
So definitely need to be praying for that and the work. And, I would guess the question would be, man, all we can do is pray, right? Well, I don't think so. And maybe that app, it probably gives you some specifics to pray for, but maybe even avenues to help.
That's
and
right.
I know with the Seed Company that we've been a part of for many years, that there's a work going on for this specific group to get the Word of God into their language. Speaking of their language, Swahili. Do you have any understanding of what that language even begins
I have
to
no clue.
sound like? All right, I'm putting you on the spot.
Bring it.
Give me your best Swahili impersonation of if you had to guess what Swahili sounded like, what would it be? And keep in mind, hot mic, you don't need to lean in. You can just stay where you're at because I would guess that you may. You think it's clicks?
Maybe. I've never been. Never
I think
heard.
They use words,
Do
not
they?
like
So what do they sound
clicks
like?
would be the symbols.
No, I don't know.
No, that was my question to you. I don't have to do it. Pregnant wife saves husband.
Pregnant
from shark.
wife saves husband. I had to brush up on the article just a second ago, and in some ways, what I want to do is I'm just going to read the first few lines of this article because it's so worth it. A bull shark seen off the coast of Jupiter, Florida, attacked the man in the Florida Keys. Moments after her husband jumped into the turquoise waters of the Florida Keys, Margaret Dukes Eddy, is her name.
Can I pause for a second?
Please.
I appreciate the artistry of the writing here, but we're talking about a man being attacked by a shark who's later saved by his wife. I don't need turquoise.
It's there. Because here's what happens. The turquoise is no longer turquoise. She saw a shark fin and blood around the area where he had entered the water. Without hesitation, Dukes Eddy, who is pregnant, mind you, leaped into the water and pulled him to safety.
Is it a benefit? Should we even ask how far along she is?
I probably don't want to know, just in case.
Golly, that's unreal.
That's heroic.
How? Does it say how she did this?
No,
did she
straight
headbutt
up.
the shark, punch him? like
Nope.
swing her stomach around?
Nope. All she does is it says that she slammed into Eddie and latched onto his shoulder, and according to witnesses, she pulled him in.
Bull shark gone.
Oh, sure. He gone.
Um,
Take that. That's very heroic. But then we
Yeah.
said if we read the article wrong, it could be something like pregnant shark saves husband from wife, and then that would be a really interesting
it would
article.
be. And, you and I are both husbands, and, like typically in marital relationships from time to time, you tend to hold things over each other's heads, right or wrong. You tend to do this. Like, hey, I would do the dishwasher, but, I did that last night. Or, different things.
Got
You're
it.
letting them know, hey, I did this last time. Like, how long is she going to be like, hey,
I saved your life from a bull shark, and I
I
was
rescued
pregnant.
you from a shark. I think you can, you
you
can
can
replace
clean
the
it.
toilet paper in the bathroom every now and then, right?
Oh, it's got to be lifelong because she saved his life. It's gonna be always there.
Forever.
Yeah, you're
okay.
welcome. She said she got out of the water, I'm sure, and said, "You're welcome."
You're welcome.
Kept going on being her pregnant self.
Yeah. Wow.
So, man, have you ever seen that before? Pregnant lady saves husband from a shark.
Never.
Well, that's a good thing.
Never.
Never see it again.
New widgets.
So have you seen everybody's like iPhone now? So iOS 14 happened, I guess it was last week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, the update that Apple does every single year, and they usually roll out some cool stuff. Well, one of the things that they rolled out is the ability to like put stuff all over your phone. Like you can put these big block letters, you can put the day of the week, or in these pretty little script letters. So you can do all these different things. Have you downloaded iOS 14?
I do have it,
Goodness.
and I've got some appreciates,
Bring it.
and I've got some I would change this.
I'd love to hear them.
Well, I think
This is
that's
one of my
its
favorite
own,
things to talk. I love talking techie stuff.
This is all like probably its own podcast.
Oh.
Almost.
That's dangerous.
Because there's a lot, and I think it could really get away from us here for a second. Like I don't mind, like going all the way to the left, and you've got the old widget
Yeah.
thing, and you had that. Oh, I just messed it up there, so I'm still getting used to it, but I didn't. I thought I could like scroll down a little bit. I've set that up, right? But I know that there's something that you can do on the screen with all your apps. Like
That's
you can
right.
import that. Like I need that to be redesigned a little bit. There's some things in that I can't get it. I would commit and I would go there, but there's some things that I can't label. I can't do some things that I would want to do, and I can't really think of those things. But I know when I first got the update, and I'm like, oh man, that could be cool because I like a clean home screen.
Totally.
But I also like to see every little thing. Like things get lost when they're in groups.
No doubt.
And
The
I've just now
folders.
gotten used to this setup.
Yep.
Like Suzanne, like if you mess with the order of her apps, she's lost.
Oh gosh.
And she will admit that. And she is the faithful listener. So I will hear this, and I'm not downing her. I'm just saying, like, she would not be about the update. I could be. I'm not as far along as she is. I'm not that committed to my home screen. But I don't want to risk losing an app forever. But that could be the Lord saying, see, you never needed the app. So I don't
Wasted
know.
space.
I'm all right with it.
Lakin's home screen's all cutified. I wish I had a picture of it we could show, but like it's she's got like on the top of it says September. Well, now it probably says October in pretty little script, and it's got the
hopefully it does.
time, and hope so. And it's really cool. But then like I could see it being you can only do I think certain apps that way. Like for you, it'd be cool if you could put the score center and always have an update on the score. Or it's got something you can track, or it's got or something. I don't know that
Yeah.
you can do all of them like that. Though.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. But
ways to be improved.
like one thing I let you know that you're on my within the text messaging, on that home screen of your messages, you can put like some of your favorite people up there. You changed it because originally
It was
I
just
was
like-
not
yeah,
there.
I know.
And here's what you said. All right,
I didn't do it.
shade
but then
throne,
I did it.
shade
Bring it.
throne, and you may need to get a little closer to your mic. I don't know because I may be louder.
Sorry,
than you.
gentlemen.
So we were talking about the updates, and I was like, hey, this is cool. Have you seen this? And you said, yes, I haven't set it up yet. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I've got Lake in there.
Yeah, so I have set it up.
So you did set it up, and I was not on there, but you are on there. So from the very beginning,
Everything's been ratified.
in fact, you're number 4.
That's pretty good, dude. I got you 3. Depends how you're checking.
3?
3. You're 3, bro.
Well, I'm moving you to 5.
Whoa, I'll move you to. I only got a couple.
I'm
people
moving
on
you.
here.
So yeah, I like it. Would you got any highlights from the new?
No, I wish it would do a little bit more. Like I used to always, I had this thing set up where you could I could quick call people
Yeah.
right there, and I can no longer put it there anymore because they took it away. And
So I guess you were
No, I
in the
actually
minority there.
yeah, I actually had to go to the phone now to call people.
Wow.
I know.
Well, at
it's
least you didn't have to
third
hit
world
all
problems.
7 numbers, or
Yeah.
now it's 10 numbers. Yeah. So the rotary, the rotary is not there anymore. Yeah,
better
that's
than
a
the
lot of
bag
work. I'm
foam.
sorry you had to go through that.
It's okay. The Lord's faithful
Yeah,
even
you'll
in
get
our
used to it.
trials.
Yeah.
All right, so PSL.
Pumpkin spice latte.
You a fan?
Totally.
I thought so.
And I was thinking about this the other day because I got on we like Duck Dynasty. You know, when it came out, we would watch it. I mean, it was good. We watched it. And so, like, I guess there's just really nothing on TV much that I like to watch. And so I'll just go to YouTube. Like, you know, at night, I'll just catch, you know, some, like, Dude Perfect or, like, some other things, golfing shows. And I noticed that they started just putting up all the Duck Dynasties again. And so I got on that, and then I got on. They've got a podcast and stuff
Oh,
that
cool.
they
I
do.
didn't know that.
And so it's just it's humorous to watch, and it's informative at times, and it's just cool to kind of watch them do their hunting stuff. Well, they're all, of course, black coffee. You're a black coffee guy and stuff, and you know it's been stated, and I agree with it, that typically in most cases you drink coffee the way that your dad drank coffee because you would sip from his, and then you would just take on
Never thought about that.
same thing. So. My dad was milk and sugar. You know, he would sweeten it up a little bit, and so naturally I did too.
That's cool.
And I don't know why I like that. I don't know why I have to drink black coffee other than the health benefits, right? I mean, no milk and no sugar is only better for you. So that would be the one reason. But I mean, I don't know that I'm ready to commit to that. So I got to thinking about these Duck Dynasty guys, and they would shame anybody that drinks it anything other than black. And like sometimes I will take that ridiculing, and it will change my behavior. Like if I get ridiculed about something, okay, well I won't wear these shoes anymore because obviously, you know, like nobody likes them. I'm getting a hard time. It's not worth that. I like caramel macchiatos. You know, the vanilla, pumpkin spice. Like that's worth it to me. You call me any name in the book. When you find out I drink that, I don't care.
There was that one that had the green stuff in it. Remember that they came out with last year that you really liked? I don't remember.
It was like cedar. It had the word cedar in it.
I thought it was pine. You're right. I bet it is cedar. Though.
Yeah, I think it was cedar. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, there's certain sweet now. Like I genuinely like the taste of black coffee. There's some like sweet stuff that I'm like it just doesn't taste good. But then there's some sweet ones that I drink and I'm like, man, that's just delicious.
Yeah.
But
some
that's
are
okay.
too sweet. Like pumpkin spice, I think it's 3 pumps of whatever. I just go 2, and most times I go no whipped cream. I just need a little bit, you know, of stuff.
Knock off the edge almost.
Yeah, just right on the edge because like my perfect cup of coffee is a caramel macchiato, half finished, and then I add black onto that.
Get it
so it's like a half and half.
Bit. Yeah, that's
right.
cool.
I just need a hint of non-black coffee.
Yeah, shoes are one thing, but then like you're gonna drink something and like if you don't like the way it tastes. Like this, I mean, we'll go ahead and say it. Starbucks is a little expensive in some ways, just for a drink. And so here's what you got to say
compared to BP.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Or anybody, any coffee place is expensive.
Yeah, absolutely, you can get a whole thing of Maxwell House for nothing, but coffee's expensive. So you want what you want to get what you want. Speaking of pumpkin spice latte, though, why did they bring it back right now? Why is there a pumpkin spice latte now?
It's fall.
It's fall.
Yeah.
It's my favorite season of the year.
Mine too. I like I like long sleeve t-shirts.
Yep.
Crew necks with shorts.
Crew necks with shorts. It's the perfect tweener. Is that a bad word? Tweener?
No, I mean,
I didn't
if it is, we need to go back in youth ministry and apologize to all the tweenagers because they've always been tweenagers. They're not 13, but they're 12.
I like
they're teenagers. So, no, it's not.
So you get a couple of things that I admire about fall. I love being able to drink coffee at any time of the day. It's always cold enough to where it's like, it's totally appropriate. Now, when it's 95 degrees, I'm still going to drink coffee, but like it kind of makes it a little less appropriate. Coffee anytime. I love apple cider. Shout out to Gallery Row, who's got the best apple cider in town.
Okay.
Soups anytime. We had Olive Garden soup and salad the other day.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I will eat soups. I will eat that meal at Olive Garden any day of the year, but I prefer it in January with a slight mist, knowing that it's a Thursday.
A little easier, a little slower.
Yeah, a little easier day. It's a cleanup day. It's a graphic design day. It's blog day. It's soup day.
I love soup.
Yeah.
It's so easy. You can reheat it anytime. Pants and long sleeves, that's another thing. Football is back. Are you a chili guy? You like chili?
Love it. Yeah.
Gosh,
yeah. Our family our family does 2 pots of chili. Like their chili is brown stuff is what it is. I mean, it's just got like the chili sauce and some stuff, and then a little bit of ground beef, and that's it.
But yours?
Oh no, I go all out. I'm all about some chili beans. I like tomatoes, and of course the ground beef.
Yep.
And then from time to time, I'll spice it up and put some other stuff in there. But like I want it chunky. I'm a chunky chili guy.
Throw some Fritos on top of it. You like
And
Fritos,
cheese.
hot
Yeah.
sauce, cheese,
Hot sauce,
sour
yeah.
cream.
Well, right now our refrigerator's down, so like we have no hot sauce in the house. We had chili the other day and no hot sauce. So I mean, but I took it on the chin. I want chili, cheese, and Fritos.
That's so good.
And every now and then, maybe on the second bowl, I'll go sour cream. You ever tried that?
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. We got leaves changing. We got bonfires. We were talking on the way over here. We smelled fire in the air. There's few things that smell better than bonfire outside. It's cold.
Yeah, I'm all right on like 7:30 at night in the fall. I smell smoke from a campfire, but it was a little alarming to walk over here at 12:30 in the middle of the day on a Thursday and smell smoke from
Something
a fire.
on fire.
Like that's not a good sign. But yeah, typically the weekend fires, the night fires, and are you like in backyard? You got a backyard now. It's your backyard.
Yep.
Are you gonna eventually put a fire pit back there? Yes or no?
I want to, yes.
Okay.
It's a
Now, will you
definite
go
plan.
gas or will you go all natural?
I'll go all natural just because I don't feel like paying for everything to have it set up for gas.
Yeah.
Now I'll pour some gas on it and light it if that's what you're asking, but I don't
No,
think that's what you're asking.
I mean like natural gas.
You mean okay? You're not talking about the huge propane thing. You're talking about like the
Like
thing
what
y'all have
we've
on
got.
the. Oh yeah, I'm totally cool with that. Yeah. I'd love to have that on our back deck. That'd be cool. Right now we've just got this kind of rinky-dink thing we got when we first got married. It's really rusty, but it holds logs and it'll burn it.
Yeah.
I like that. I love what y'all have on the back deck.
Okay.
So there we are, man.
That's our culture stuff. I had some things I was going to bring up to you, but I can't remember them. I just knew the messaging thing was one of those things. Other than that,
Messaging thing.
Yeah, the messaging. Throw some shade your way because you didn't have me in your circle,
Yeah.
but now you do. But
You're
now
always
I'm
my
like,
favorite. You've
obviously
always
I'm
been-
behind
we've
someone.
Had favorites.
I need to know who's in
there.
front of me so I can take them out, but I
There's
don't want
Jacob's
to know it
too.
right now.
I think I text
Jacob?
him more than you.
Okay. All right. I know that. Now. And also to that point, and it's a time of celebration for you and for Jacob, but it's also good head knowledge for me when I get up into the pulpit to, like, Jacob and Andrew are being ordained this Sunday night, which is October 4th. Special day for them, being officially ordained as a minister of the gospel, which we all are as believers. We're all ministers. But then there is this, official stance on it. So that's what happens when you become official is you're ordained, set apart for ministry full time. So it's a big day for you. But now knowing that Jacob is one spot ahead of me, I've got the charge to the church to where I charge them what is our responsibility as a church in ordaining these two men. Our responsibility as we come alongside these men. That's the challenge that I've got. I've got all of 5 minutes to share with the church. So, but in that, I may also steal a little bit of Andrew Owensby's charge to the candidates,
Oh, please.
which is you two guys. So I've got some things I want to say to you two guys as
And
well.
I will
But yeah,
gladly receive them.
it's exciting times. So, well, speaking of me speaking, we get to our topic of today:
That's it.
old people.
Why is it? Oh, no, you're not old. All right, let's ask this. Let's go ahead and define this. What defines old in your mind when you think of somebody old? There's this joke I've always got with like my grandmother when she's around. I always say like, for some reason it always comes up, and I'm like, yeah, like older people like, and I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm like, people that are 89, like we all kind of look at her and she's
But
like,
then there's an 89 sitting around.
yeah, and then you're 97.
There's a factor that's always involved in this, and there's a math term that I can't think of right now, but it's a variable. So a variable that is ever changing in the quest to define old. I don't think anybody can properly, officially define old because the ever-changing variable is the guesser or is the one who's actually saying what's old. A 5-year-old would say that a 15-year-old is old. Now, older, yes,
course.
but not in a common sense way. But they would no doubt look at a 40-year-old and go old, as would a 15 or 16-year-old. You and I would, you may call a 65-year-old, but a lot of it's on their appearance.
That's totally true. Absolutely.
I mean, we had Bill Murray turn the same age as our lovely financial secretary, Pat Wood, on her birthday. They had the same birthday. They both turned this magical age, and one of them, Miss Pat, looked a little bit younger than that of the famous Bill Murray. I mean, he has aged differently than she has. So we age different. Hair, is either present or it's colored or it's colored white. And so that kind of adds to
Uh-huh.
the knowledge. I mean, I think because I'm in student ministry, even though I don't have any hair, and the hair I do have on my face is turning gray, you know, I think more times than not, people guess my age as if I'm younger.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because of the life that I'm involved
Totally,
in.
very
with student
active,
ministry and
but
stuff.
you're also very active. You're in shape. You're not. I mean, like the top of your head is black or dark brown. I think it's black.
Well, I mean, in the summer it is.
No, I can't.
But like winter, I think when you start losing your tan a little bit, I think the baldness comes
Washes
through a
out.
little bit more, yeah.
So we talk about old people. We're not physically, Chris said earlier, talking about older people. I mean, not like old people. We're just talking about older people. So for a middle schooler, a high schooler is older for you. For a high school, college age. For a college age, a married couple. For a married couple, a grand married couple, maybe. So you've got all of these ages that are relative. And the point is this, is like we need older people in our lives, right? And it has been a struggle, and Chris said that. And we've all struggled with authority, right? That's kind of part of the play on words. Older people usually have authority over us, and in some ways we have pushback against that because we are sinful people, but in some ways we need authority in our life. We need people to tell us what to do. We need people to help guide us along, whether it's a coach, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's an older brother or older sister. We need older influences in our life, and that's what today's about. But it's not just us coming up with it. We find scriptures that tell us this very thing.
Yeah, and I think in Titus you see this, you know, maybe one of the brightest spots in the Bible, I mean, or more brightly. Titus is being instructed by Paul. He's left in this place to put what remains into order, to really lead them as a church, to establish some leadership, but then also to guide the church and the assembly and the fellowship there on, you know, how life works in relationships with others. I mean, eventually Titus would get to, you know, doing good in culture, but like inwardly as a church fellowship, as a family, you know, maybe we go this route. And he begins in chapter 2 and really, just the first 10 verses. He says, "But as for you, teach what accords with sound doctrine, Titus, which is this. Older men are to be sober-minded, dignified." I like that word, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith, in love, and in steadfastness. Gone is the time, this is me talking now, gone is the time of, like, not that everybody has to sow their wild oats, but like the older man is not figuring things out anymore. He's established in his way. He's that Psalms 1 person, you know, like a tree planted by the water. Roots are deep. So that is that man, sound in faith and love, in steadfastness. And then older women likewise are to be reverent in behavior, not slanderers or slaves to much wine. They are to teach what is good, and so train the young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind and submissive to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled. That's the underlying factor, that the word of God may not be reviled, but rather lifted high. Likewise, urge the younger men to be self-controlled. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. Huge verse there. Slaves are to be submissive to their own masters in everything, that they are to be well-pleasing, not argumentative, not pilfering, but showing all good faith, so that in everything they may adorn the doctrine of God our Savior. And he goes on to finish out some things. Let's read it because it's a huge statement. "For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age, waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness and to purify for himself a people for his own possession, who are zealous for good works." So Titus, declare these things, exhort and rebuke with all authority, let no one disregard you. So that's this message to Titus to then share with these people. And in this sharing is this reason, you know, which is 11 through 14. But then he comes out of the gate with the older people. Let's talk to the old people. Here's the benefit. In that, we get the benefit of the old people. We get the instruction for the older people, but then we get the benefit that the youngers will have from the olders. And that leaves us saying, you know, obviously in this text, he's talking about these, not elderly, the older established people.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's benefit for the 12-year-old in relationship with a mature 24-year-old. Right? There's benefit there that it's a trickle-down application is, yes, sixth grader. You can be led in small group by a college sophomore and benefit from that older person relationship. But we've got to be clear in saying Titus here is definitely talking about these matured in the faith, rooted in Christ believers who are up in age and who have lived the majority of their life already. But trickle-down application, no doubt. 15-year-old, definitely, you need to have some good 30-year-olds in your life that are pouring into you.
Yeah, because we've said this on the podcast before, that it's not just with the spiritual life, but, I mean, you want the same thing with sports. You want the same thing with learning an instrument. You want people to teach you how to do these things. So let's do this. Let's ask a question, and let's throw out a couple, answers to our question. Why do we need older people? Using what Titus has said, look, you need to teach these older folks, need to teach the younger folks. So why do we need older people? If I'm a student listening, or even if I'm a parent listening, look, why do I still need older people pouring into my life? That's the question we're going to kick off with. Why do we need older people in our lives?
Well, and you've got some bullet points here, and I think the first one is the one. Well, I would say above all, because it's God ordained, in that it's God planned. This is the way that God has set this up and established how life should go. That there are people who have gone on before us, Hebrews 11, that we are to look to and to model. Paul would say, imitate me as I imitate Christ, not as an older person than you, but a more seasoned person possibly than you. Experience and wisdom because they've been where you've yet to go. I've always said this to students. It's not received very well because we've all been students and we know the mindset of a student. There's some great students, and the mindset is, I tend to know more than my parents, right? Here's the truth about a student and the truth about a parent. A student, has never been a parent, right? Unless they have. And then they're learning. That's a different conversation too. But a student has never been a parent, but a parent has been a student.
That's right.
So why would you not want to listen to someone who is in the top 5, loves you more than anybody in this world, right? They love you more than the majority, if not everybody else in this world. Why would you not lean into their wisdom, trusting that they have your best interest and the interest of that family in mind, but also knowing that they've been where you're at? So you've got some benefits to listen to your parents. Number one is the experience that they have of having been a student before.
Yeah, that's it. Experience equals wisdom. And this is not on the paper either, but I remember Stephen's illustration from maybe this past Sunday. He was talking about the guy up in the plane, and he's flying, and this new guy who's training, the guy says, look, let it all go. Let's fly towards the ground, basically, stall out. And the guy was madder than all get out when the other guy helped him. Everything was fine. We get back, and he's mad. But what the older man knew that the younger man didn't know is, look, I'm not going to let us crash, but you need to learn in this way. Why? Because he had been there, and he had done that before. Because we do have to face it. It's exactly what Chris is saying, that they have been where we want to be. They've dealt with more things. They've had their hearts broken. They've failed their tests. They've passed their tests. They've handled the good news and they've handled the bad news. Anything, for the most part, that we'll face, our parents have faced in some ways. And it's not just parents. Again, it's coaches. The coach is never going to ask you to do something that they've not at least had experience with. It's the same thing with musicians. It's the same thing with teachers. There's a reason they have authoritative roles in our life, and it's why. It's because they have more knowledge than us about certain things. And so the first one is this. Look, we got to know experience equals wisdom, and we need that wisdom in our lives.
Yeah, and just to read these real quick, because I think there's learn from their mistakes, right? Learn from their mistakes. They are probably where we want to be in life, right? So they've got, and that's different. That's different people, because really what I want us to get to eventually is helping students and even adults listening to give them some things to look for as they look for an older person to go to and like give them permission and ask them, hey, I really I value your voice, your life. I've watched from afar, and now I kind of am inviting myself into a relationship with you. Can that happen? So how to identify which old people? Because I think we would say, I mean, you just don't want to go up to any random
Some
old
better than
person
others.
because of these things, because of, they are where we want to be. I think that would be the first prerequisite for an older person that you desire to pour into your life. You're choosing that person because they are now where you want to later be in life. And so in this journey, I want to learn mistakes that you made, which is on the list. I can learn from your mistakes. I can draw from your wisdom, your experience, because I really desire to be a computer analyst at your level who follows Christ. And I think that's what we really need to do. We need to see the benefit of all old people being able to get us into, I guess, this great place of wisdom catching. But then we need to zone that down a little bit and go, okay, I desire to be a teacher when I'm 30. I want to get a teacher who is about to retire, who is following Christ, because I not only want to be a teacher, I want to make impact educationally, but also spiritually in my classroom. I want to identify a teacher in my assembly, in my fellowship, in my church, who is also a teacher and a follower of Christ, who has modeled this well, and I want to get closer to that person, because you can benefit and gain wisdom from afar, from just watching them in their lives. But then to take that to the next level and actually engage into conversations with that person. I think, the experience, the wisdom, learning from their mistakes, because they are where we want to be. And you've got, a list here about crafts, of different things. I mean, specific as all get out or broad as all get out. But namely, is this old person a believer? I mean, that would be the first prerequisite. I mean, you can learn from unsaved old people too. I think in more times than not, that believers is where we want to turn to.
Yeah, because we don't want to just emulate the activity they're doing. We don't want to just learn how to do it, but we want to learn to do it for the right reason. If I want to go learn how to play a guitar really well, I want to go find a believer that's playing for the Lord's glory, and so that I can do the same thing. Yeah. I think that's cool.
Yeah, is it being let's throw this out there. Is it being legalist or hypocrite or judgmental of us to say, to choose that guitar player who's not a believer? I want to learn guitar. What's the knock on me going to a guy who's an atheist to learn guitar from? It's just guitar after all. Like, how would you counsel that person? Like, all right, this is an older person. They play guitar really well. They've invited me over to their house, and they're going to teach me guitar, but they're not a believer. In fact, they live a pretty rough life. What's the counsel that we might give that student or person, in that situation, versus, hey, you think we could look for maybe someone who's living a life that emulates Christ a little bit better?
Yeah, I guess the first question would be the heart, because not only are you going to learn the craft from them, but in some ways if they're pouring into you, you're going to learn some of the heart behind those things, and in some ways you'll adapt to that heart. You'll have the same heart of playing, and if we know that God's Word calls us to do everything to the Lord for His glory, then I want to find somebody who's going to lead me in that way. I want to learn how to play a G chord, but I want to learn how to play a G chord so that I can glorify God with it. So now, here's what we got to say. Can you learn from those type of people? Absolutely. Two things you can learn. You could learn the guitar from it. You could also learn from their mistakes. You can see, okay, I can watch from afar, and I can see, well, that's how I don't want to do that. So I can learn in that way. But we do want to set ourselves up for for success. We want to find somebody who's exactly where we want to be, heart and craft.
Yeah, because you could no doubt, come out of that unscathed.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can learn how to play the guitar and
Absolutely.
you made it out, but like my thing would be, why take that risk? Is that the only option? And is that option being the only one, is it worth getting you to where you want to get? It's been said that faith is caught more than it's taught, or learning is caught more than it's taught. So my fear would be, yeah, you're going to learn guitar, but you're going to come out of that being taught that craft, but what are you going to catch? What's going to be caught during that time that you don't even realize you're catching?
Yep.
You know, I don't know of many people who intentionally catch colds. I don't know of anybody I've ever met that said,
I'm getting
that dude sneezed. Hold on, I'm going over there real quick because I really want a cold. And like, we never purposely catch a cold, but it's caught accidentally, you know. And a lot of times there's a lot of bad things that we catch, that were caught in our lives. We didn't intend on becoming alcoholic. We didn't intend on being addicted to this thing. We didn't intend on wasting 10 years of our life, but you know, sometimes the people that are around, one mistake, one thing, we're not on guard. And I think that's why Paul spends a lot of time in the New Testament, you know, encouraging us to set our minds on the things of God, to put on these characteristics, to put off these things, guard your mind. You know, he says over and over and over. So we've got to be careful. There is value in the older person, the point of the podcast, definitely. But I would say, you know, ensure that that person, you know, is a believer, you know, because ultimately for the believer, we're a Christian before we're anything else in this life. As a Christian, that determines that in our life, before we're anything else, we are a Christian. And so that should outweigh any other factor in any other decision that we'll ever make. Why shouldn't it factor into who I'm going to allow to speak into my life?
So give us maybe some qualities. So we got Christian. Is there any other, like, you know, things that we need to, maybe check boxes that we need to check when we are finding people who are, you know, so Walker wants to find somebody who's going to help him pitch better or something like that. What are some ways that he can, or avenues that he can maybe do or check, or
yeah,
what do you think?
I think we've kind of set them a little bit in that believer. I mean, I would love for that person to be a believer, and then obviously they are where you want to be. You know, naturally find the most successful person. Maybe find one that's got an incredible story in that it didn't come easy for them. I don't know that I want to come to a person to teach me something that it comes natural to them. Like, you can't teach, you brought up pitching, you can't teach 100-mile-an-hour velocity on a fastball. That's given to you by God. Now, you can take 84 and increase it to 87. So is there a pitching coach who's a believer, who throws with the same hand that I throw, you know, right hand versus left hand, and who is a bulldog of a person that didn't have it easy for them? They worked their tail off. They know what it takes to get from point A to point B, versus a person who's, you know, it was so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, and they didn't have to work a day in their life. That person is not going to be able to teach something that they weren't taught. You know, so I would want to have a person who has been where I desire to go, and who has as many similar interests with me as far as the craft goes as possible.
Yeah.
And then understanding that as a believer, I'm probably going to come out of that pitching lesson learning more about life than I did about throwing a baseball. You know, and so that would be my counsel. And then you're not always going to find that. You know, I'm a tuba player, and I want to play my tuba as good as I can. There's a lot of people, I would say, in West Georgia that can play a pretty nasty tuba, and they could teach you how to do that. I don't know how many of those people are believers. I don't know how many life lessons you're going to catch. Well, you might catch some, but they may not be God-glorifying ones, you know.
In some ways, it's almost like an old-timey, I mean, like even a long time ago, like they would do these apprenticeships. You know, you would come under somebody, so a blacksmith who would, you know, mold metal and do this thing, or a cobbler. They would get somebody young to carry on the business. In some ways, this is the same thing. It doesn't just have to be with sports. It can be with music. It can be with anything. It can be with teaching, like you said. But there's a way that we can find these things wisely. So why do we need old people? Because they've got experience and they've got wisdom, because we can learn from their mistakes. They're where we want to be. There's this neat combination of seeing the old and the new come together and watch it, you know, flourish. But then here's the really cool truth. It doesn't matter who you are listening, or how old you are, whoever you are listening, but you are an older person to someone, right? It's this idea of you can disciple anybody at any time, in any stage of your walk with Christ. You're teaching people what you know, whether it's just the gospel, or whether it's, you know, some great theological truth. You can teach anybody anything.
Yeah, and going back to the variable of, you know, how do we define old? Well, it's dependent on the variable or the person saying and answering that question. I can remember being an elementary student, and the elementary school I went to was, you know, 7 miles from the high school, and we rarely ever we went there for Friday night football game occasionally in elementary, but like I thought Graysville was its own entity, and the only time I saw high school people were at church or at the mall or whatever. And whenever I saw a high school student, I would have said, you put that person and my dad side by side, and it's the same person. I mean, dude's got beards, and they're shaven, and they're huge, and they're as big as they're ever going to be, maybe in high school and stuff. And so I know Central's homecoming is this week, and so Walker and a lot of the fall sport teams were loading up on buses and going to elementary schools and just going through the hall. I don't know what they were going to do. I don't know if it was social distancing. They were probably just going to ride through on the bus. And so I'm like, well, Walker, just make sure you're behaving, represent, us, the Lord, and your school well, and, just the whole dad to son talk, of a 16-year-old.
It's part of being older.
It's part of being older, and I get it. But, like, the thing was, like, these kids are going to look to you, and in the kid's mind, what they're thinking is, man, I don't know if I'll ever be that big. Man, I don't know if I'll ever be in that position. They look to these high schoolers, but then on the other side, of the coin is you and I looking at these high schoolers, totally different than that as that second grader is looking at these same kids, But, yeah, I mean, the statement is so true. Everybody listening to this podcast, you're the older person to someone. And every action, every comment, every response, every emotion is being caught by someone, and you may never know. That's the scary thing. I'm always mindful, and I fail so many times, but I'm always mindful, even in a parking lot. I'm walking to Kroger. I mean, as far as like, picking my nose or doing whatever. Yeah. I mean, somebody's judging me for something, and I just want to be the best Chris for Christ that I can to this world. Because of what he's done for me. But it also goes to, past picking nose to, picking music.
Yeah.
To picking what I'm drinking, to picking what I'm eating, to picking what I'm fixing to say in this moment, to picking how I'm going to respond to the debate. Why aren't we talking about the debate on the podcast? So I'll say this. This is the one debate comment, and you can have one too. We're talking about older people and the influences. I'll tell you what happened Monday night Tuesday night. Tuesday night. What did not happen was a great representation of how two older men can discuss differences. We saw two 4-year-olds acting like babies is what we saw. Two of them.
That's right.
I mean, Trump train, it was horrible Tuesday night. Biden, whatever you want to call it, I saw a thing, the people searching for the Libertarian candidate on Wednesday morning went up, tremendously, to where, everybody's running to see, is there something else out there? So I'm not saying if that, whatever, we're not getting political, but we can get spiritual in saying, man, how I wish that the leaders of our country would represent Titus 2.
That's right.
And they didn't. They had a shot and they didn't.
And guess what? All that was caught. And so we've got an option. We can look at that and we can learn from their mistakes and say, okay, well, what I take away is I know how not to do it. And I hope that we don't say, that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. There's so many comments.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Next. So here's the deal. Why do we need older people? Because they've got more wisdom than we do. Why do we do what we do? Well, because we're influencing other people. You have an influence on somebody's life. And so the question is, how are you using that influence? And are you using that influence? High schoolers listening, middle schoolers listening, you are influential to people. So use your platform, even if it's just you going to school. Use that platform for God and His glory. So, what do we do? Closing thoughts, closing anything. Here's where we're at. Job is a really difficult story. It's about a man who is suffering, and God has placed the suffering on him, or at least He has allowed the suffering to come his way. And so he's in the midst of answering Zophar, his friend. And check out what he says in Job 12. Have you got that one?
Yeah, I do. He says this to the friend: wisdom is with the aged, and understanding in the length of days. Both of those, old, aged, old, length of days, old. The longer you live, the older you are. The Bible would say understanding is greater amongst those people. Wisdom is greater amongst those people.
Yeah, and in some ways, I think he's specifically talking about the Lord and the Lord's knowledge of He is Jacob played a song last night at 8:31 called "The Ancient of Days." He is the old of the old. He has no beginning and he has no end. He is the all-knowing, all wisdom. He's speaking that it is God that we find ultimate truth with. We find ultimate wisdom there. So what is our application? It's to respect the wisdom of others, yes, who are older than us, but even more than that, to respect the wisdom of God. He is the true older person in our lives that we should seek wisdom from, and he's revealed it through Jesus in his word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. I can remember when I was a teenager hearing that, this cycle of father-son relationship or parent-child relationship, to the point of, you're born, you come into this world, you depend on your parents for everything, you think they hang the moon, and then all of a sudden, within the teenage years, you begin to develop your own thinking, your own way of life, and then little by little, you find out that you really don't need your parents for anything. You know more than your parents. And then around the college age, at some point, you come back to that childhood thinking and love for and appreciation and admiration for your parents, and say, maybe they did know some things, and now you stand on your own foundation, the foundation that was laid by them through God, and you have wisdom, you have understanding, you have your way of doing things, but now it's seasoned with your parents, and you still lean on them. Here's the key for the adults that are listening. This is not just for students. The danger for an adult is to feel like they have arrived. Like, I need an older person while I'm younger, but when I'm older, I am the older person. But just remember, there's always going to be one who's older than you. For a time, it's your grandparents, it's your uncles and your aunts, it's your mom and your dad, it's people within the church. But as those people begin to die out and their legacy is left, and then you don't lose that older person influence. No, you may have to go and seek out others to then begin to influence you. But we never get to the point, and sometimes as you get into 30, 40, 50, I don't need that old person, because I am the old person. My time, I have arrived. I'm here. I'm on my throne. Come to me for all who need advice. And
it's dangerous.
I will be to you what I had and now no longer need. No, we always need this in our lives.
So be wise in listening. Be wise in giving. Be careful what you're helping other people catch. Be careful what you're throwing for other people to catch. That's silly.
So, hey, thank you for joining us today for the podcast of Rootville Road, or the Rock Student Ministry, which is known as the Rockcast. So we enjoyed being with you. If you watched or are watching on Facebook Live and YouTube, we appreciate you hanging in. Just an experiment that we were going for, just to see what it was like. And I like seeing visuals from time to time, so we just offered a visual today, and we'll put it up on the recording and see if people respond to that. So hug the old persons in your life, hold and cherish and love and hug the young ones in your life as well. Next time, we have no idea what we're talking about, but we do know that, Lord willing, there will be a next time. And you know what's going to happen that never has happened before on the podcast of the Rockcast? Next time, it will Lord willing, it will happen as long as Sunday comes. Like 2 ordained ministers on the podcast. Before, it was just one ordained minister and one common man.
Just guy that's
common
here,
guy.
who cares about the Bible.
It's all right. It's all right.
It'll be official one day.
Yeah, it'll be official, and by the next time we get together, we'll be official. Hey, if you've got a topic that you would love for us to address or talk about, or you think it would be funny, you think it would be helpful, just shoot us an email, Chris at Rootville Road or Andrew at Rootville Road. So, again, thank you for listening. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Signing off.
You've been listening to The Rockcast, a podcast of the Rock Student Ministry, which is a ministry of the Rootville Road Baptist Church. You've been listening to The Rockcast, a podcast of the Rock Student Ministry. You can find more information about our ministry at therocksm.org. All right.
Boom.